Hello, guys. I am Shane Davis, 20-year comic book veteran. I'm here with Yanzi, and today is the day we are talking more about the decimated comic book industry as DC Comics doubles, quadruples, triples down on pronouns of sexuality of characters, diversity, if you will. But we're going to talk a little bit about it and like why can't Marvel or DC Comics get one of these type of characters to stick. And I have some thoughts on that. Before we get into it, though, this is the year we are marching to hopefully 10,000 subs on this channel. If you will, look down below. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications as we do hold hands and watch the American comic book industry burn. Now, DC Comics, they had recently did, I don't know, maybe a year ago, a non-binary Flash. Nobody really cared. Nobody really talked about it too much. We briefly talked about it here on this channel, and they're coming at it again. Evidently, there's a Lazarus Planet type event that they're doing at DC Comics. Kind of got my ears tweaking a little bit. I'm like, oh, we're doing a DC Comics event, but we're going to deal with the Lazarus Pit. That could be fun. I love Raj Al Ghul. I love the League of Assassins, and of course, this would naturally tie in with a lot of Batman books, which is the only thing DC Comics could sell. And then they come out with this, and I'm like, oh, all right, here we go.
Yep, so it looks like we have a character here called Circuit Breaker, which some people have very kindly pointed out. Not original at all. There's a Circuit Breaker character in Marvel, and there's also a Circuit Breaker character in Transformers. Get it? Transformers? So, anyway, let's look at some of the reactions, though, of Twitter to this character. So this person says, I'm looking forward to meeting them. Here's hoping they're used well after. And the poor guy after him goes, is there more than one? It says Circuit Breaker. It's like a team name or something. So there you go. See, when people start using unorthodox pronouns, it confuses people because apparently this Circuit Breaker character goes by both he, him, and they, them pronouns. So, you know, guys, be careful not to misgender the characters, y'all.
Something I want to go on about this character rather than the character, because this is the trouble. I see this and I'm like, this character really probably won't mean anything in 6 months from now. DC Comics, and there is this thing going on in Marvel Comics, mainly in the Spider-Man books at Marvel, but they're basically picking pronouns and check boxes and saying, oh, here's gay Spider-Man, here's handicapped Spider-Man, things like that. That comes to be the first thing they present to you, not the character, not development, not any type of built-up backstory, no dynamics, no interesting origin story, none of that. They're not even really trying to sell you on their superhero abilities with the relationship to another character within the DC universe. Do they have a murky past? None of that. So they're basically at this point where slap a pronoun on it, slap a checks box on it, and that's the billing of the character when they announce it to the community. Now, naturally, this character, in my opinion, should just been, if I was working at DC Comics, I would say this character is just a rebuild in the book. I wouldn't actually go out there and announce to the world that we have this bad guy that's new that nobody hears about. I mean, you've never heard of them. By the way, their pronouns is an issue. That's just a hard sell. And it's lazy. It's like at this point, I mean, Marvel and DC are treating diversity like it's a label it is a label, but they're treating it like it's like something fashionable that you just say it and automatically people will buy it. And if you look at Marvel and DC comic sales, it's absolutely not working. But it does get talked about. And this is something the American comic book industry isn't learning a lesson from. People talking about this doesn't actually turn into money. If anything, I mean, maybe it's kind of keeping your brand alive, but it's kind of killing it at the same time because, I mean, nobody's really saying great things about this. They're kind of confused. And it actually looks like you're not making stories or characters. It just looks like you're pandering.
Yeah, I mean, look at this coming over here. Ooh, what does this hero do? Really? All right. This is by a company that you may have heard of called DC Comics. They publish superhero periodical. And you don't tell them what the hero's power is.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. The pronouns are he, him, they, them. And this person will appear in Lazarus Planet. And by the way, this is a trans man. So, all right. So what's your power again? Oh, no. That's not important. That's not important at all. Nothing important. So, but you see, when DC see, maybe they think there'll be some backlash if they say, "Oh, trans man" here in their promotion, so they decide not to mention it and let people figure it out, maybe dig around a bit. But unfortunately, you see, you want to try and avoid at the same time, you trigger the alphabet community that's like, we want to be represented everywhere. So Jeremy here says, "Hey DC, you're not gonna let us know this is a trans character? What's up with that? You're not gonna stand by your creation?" So on the one hand, we're saying it doesn't matter what your sexuality is, your race is, your ethnicity, your religion. We just want this to be an interesting character. And then, of course, we have people who are talking about things like, mentioning a character's gender directly or otherwise is pretty standard. Pretty standard when? 2020?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did they tell me what the character's gender was back in the 60s when X-Men debuted? Did they tell it to me in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s? Like,
Okay, I mean, there had been diversity things kind of put in there, like with especially the second generation of X-Men and stuff like that, like Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Kitty Pryde, things like that. But the issue is like they still had cool powers and they had cool costumes. They kind of presented the character to you, and then diversity was second. And actually, what you would find over time is some of the diversity points of these characters really weren't that important to the comic story at all, because when you were reading the X-Men, it was about them fighting the Brood or the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. You weren't really hung up on like the back history of Storm all that much, where Colossus came from. I mean, that those things were hinted, they would come up, but they weren't like a driving factor in most X-Men stories. So it's weird where at some point in time, yeah, that's the origin of the character. That's where they come. That's their sexuality. That's their religion. That's, oh, they're vegan. These things could be mentioned in the story, but chances are you're not going to a comic book to read about somebody's sexual preference. I mean,
there are
maybe
special comics for that, just for people wondering.
right. There is romance comics, but for the American superhero comic, you're usually looking for action adventure, bad guys saving people, using cool superpowers you can only imagine. And in DC Comics, in the American comic book industry right now, like this thing to me is so weird that they decided to present a character like this to an audience rather than let them find out about this character in the comic. They have crappy artwork of the character that they're showing, mainly because they wanted to get a position of the character in a back arch bend, so it's flamboyant, I guess. I don't know. This isn't even a cool shot of the character, in my honest opinion.
I thought you're supposed to get basically like a front shot review, kind of like revealing what the outfit looks like.
A 3/4 shot, or keep them in some type of mysterious lighting or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of ways, but it's very few times will DC Comics actually present a villain to people. Usually you find out about a new villain within the comic. It's just not kind of a publicity stunt. Hey, here's this new villain. And okay, well, why should I care? I don't even know the events of the story. I don't understand the situation. Oh, you should care because of their pronouns. Okay, well, I just see a million problems here. If Flash hits this guy, is he phobic?
Wait,
See,
honey.
like,
Let me correct you. It's not a guy. It's a trans man.
it's a
So
trans.
we have to be so careful when we talk about this kind of stuff, because people will say, "Oh my god, you just said something cancelable." So this is a problem. Imagine if somebody is handed this a character and saying, "Okay, now do a news article on this," and then they get the pronouns wrong or they describe the person wrong. Then, oh, cancellation. This is like a whole minefield. All right, can I say something about all these, the way they present characters like this? It's like, so you're a trans man. Are there any characters that tie in specifically to the fact that you are a trans man? Does it affect the storyline in any way? It's kind of like saying, oh, this character is vegan. Well, is there a storyline where the character being vegan is relevant? Then do I really need to know about it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but again, this is something that Marvel and DC are very guilty of right now, and they're putting diversity before story and any type of character development whatsoever. And that's the crime here. Is like, I do believe, like, this has been, last year was the year of Pride year for DC Comics. It was not Pride Month, it was Pride year. We had a gay Justice League, a gay Superboy, Aquaman. I mean, we just went down through the whole list of characters, a non-binary Flash, I mean, a bisexual Robin. The list goes on and on and on. We had sodomized Superman. I mean, it just the whole DC Comics piggy bank just broke with IP being just gender, sexuality, all this
ruined.
stuff.
Let's just say they were ruined. All right.
Well, I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say though is there's a real crime happening here. Even if let's pretend let's just say I want a non-binary character out there. I'm like, I really wish DC Comics had a non-binary character. Let's just pretend that, argument's sake. They're handling this so wrong by presenting that first rather than selling me on the character and then the character happen to be non-binary, or that the character's bisexual. That should be the last thing. Like I like Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde. Her being Jewish isn't the number one thing that I like about the character. The same for Ben Grimm, the Thing. Like, you like the Thing, you like Shadowcat, and then those things, they're there, but they're not the driving factor or the driving force of either character. And that's something that seems to be really lost here in the American comic book industry right now. And it's like, it's backward. The one thing that should be the least important thing about the character is now almost in the character's logo because of the way the company is presenting it to the world. Is that and it's doing this a really big disservice, because with all these attempts, which is clearly pandering to a demographic that they're chasing, is that none of these characters are ever developed. And I've seen characters not developed really well, especially in the 90s. Like Gambit was not a well-developed character, super popular overnight, which is the opposite of this in contrast. But it was a crime to the character in the way that he was so underdeveloped and got caught up in popularity that he's kind of hollow. It's not very fleshed out. He just had to get on along and be super cool and look super cool with his popularity. And nobody ever really took time to think of an origin story, a backstory, something that's well developed and that would stick. And it kind of hurt the character in the long run when you think about it. I kind of see the same thing happening here, but in a whole different situation where it's about chasing diversity and woke points, that none of these characters really are developed as far as the character goes. Like they're just not developed. And in the end, when all of this is said and done, we will see years and years of the American comic book industry pandering with a bunch of characters that nobody will remember. They will become like just another failed character. And if any one of these characters worked so far, there would be no need to keep doing this at this pace. Marvel and DC are racing to get one of these characters to stick, to work, and they're not.
Well, probably not. I mean, furthermore, we can just say, Circuit Breaker, you're not exactly something fresh to the DC list of transgender characters. So maybe he'll stick this time. Who knows?
Right. Anyways, guys, that's our video. If you will, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Please share the video out. Leave me a comment below, as I do like to read the comments. Also, Inglorious Rex hit 209, 201. We are moving on up, less than $800 away from our next stretch goal, which will add another reward for art contest, guys. The art contest will grow. There will be a second place spot, and the cash rewards will go up. So please do consider, if you're an artist, submit, tweet out, read below in our campaign. The details are there if you want to enter. And I'll leave you guys with a trailer for this smash hit monster book, Inglorious Rex. Catch you guys again with another video.
Let out the beast. Let him out. Let him out.